Good morning, NBC Radio. My name is Corey Rosen, and you're listening to the Story Podcast. But before we get into the episode, I just want to say thank you guys very much for supporting me. And if you really want to support this podcast, what you can do is you can go to, if you're listening on Facebook, you can like and follow the page. You can, if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe. If you're on our Instagram, you can follow there. It's at the_story_podcast. And if you really want to help this reach new people, you can go to Facebook and leave us a review there. You can go to Spotify and rate us on there. You can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review there. We actually have one review from Liam Galliano, a great friend of this show, and myself. He says, great podcast, educational, inspirational, and just fun. If you want to leave a review and have yours read online, please be sure to do that as well. Today, I have a super awesome guest, Mr. Brandon Valentine. Brandon Valentine is the president and founder of the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. With the last name of Valentine, you wouldn't believe that he was not only born on Valentine's Day, February 14th, but he is also from Hershey, PA, the sweetest place on earth, and he even married his high school sweetheart. Brandon is a co-owner of a company that creates customized parody songs and the drummer of the band Cold Spring Union. Since the age of 15, he has performed with over one half dozen bands, the most successful of which have opened for numerous national acts and played shows in New York City, Nashville, Austin, and more. Additionally, Brandon is a songwriter who plays multiple instruments outside of his commitments involving music. He's a medical sales representative, a baseball coach, and a father of two. You can find Brandon and his projects on the Facebook page, Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, and on Instagram and Twitter at CPMHOF. Brandon, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Corey. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We got a lot to talk about today. So you said in the bio you have been performing since the age of 15. Is that when your love of music started, or was it earlier?
Yeah, definitely before that. I mean, as far as playing in bands, it started at 15. But before that, I think similar to probably a lot of the musicians you've had on the podcast here, the story always starts with, just music in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surrounds you in your home life. It is very influential from brothers, sisters, and parents. In my case, my mom was always singing in the house. My dad was an unofficial drummer, always on the table and the car steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So I always was kind of surrounded. My dad was a fan of the oldies, radios, 50s and 60s. My mom, 80s, 90s music. So always kind of had that real well-rounded knowledge, I guess, of, recent past or oldies music. But yeah, neither one of them played an instrument. Neither one of them did it professionally. My mom did dabble in some piano. But I guess their love of music and just having music in the house always led me to say I want to do something with this, and was always singing at a young age, never in tune. And I guess maybe that caused me to pick up a pair of drumsticks at the age of 11 and start to play the snare drum. I ended up learning the full drum set probably around the age of 13. And from there, kind of, I feel like taught myself music, dabbled in some piano, some guitar, and really kind of tried to hone my craft in singing as well and develop an ear, because I certainly didn't naturally have it.
So what was it like to start or join your first band at 15?
Yeah, it was a wild experience. I think at that point, you're just in the high school scene and you're like, man, it would be awesome if we had a band, So you think about, okay, who would be a good front man, who plays bass in the high school jazz band, or who plays snare drum or drums, it was almost a collection of friends, and at the same time, kind of a hodgepodge of personalities. But our front man, actually the other three members came to me. They were very close friends. The lead singer, his name was Todd Schaefer. He's been on David Letterman. He was in
that's a
M. Night Shyamalan movie.
that's a name I recognize.
Yeah. So we went to high school together, and he was a very dynamic personality. Worked well as a front man and a singer, and the guitarists were twins, twin brothers, and they came to me and were like, hey, man, we heard you play drums. You want to join the band? So then it came down to, well, this singer was on David Letterman for Stupid Human Tricks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of his tricks was he was highly flexible and he could like wrap his arms around his entire body and pull out and basically do this from behind, kind of contortionist stuff. But one of the things he could do was clap with one hand. And both the guitarist and the bassist could also do this. And they said to me, "Can you clap with one hand?" And I said, "Yes, I can."
Can you do it now?
I can. So our band was called the One Hand Clappers. But yeah, here it is.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right. It's hard to picture until you see it. Right?
Yeah, right. I can't even. It's like the people that do this with their wrist or whatever, the fingers.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, age of 15, one-handed clappers. We played some small venues, original music, and got a taste of playing drums in a band and haven't stopped since.
So where do you go from there? You play in this small high school band. What do your peers think about you? Because that'd be my biggest fear.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, it's I don't know. I guess it comes down to different personality types. Are you out there to please others and to get feedback and recognition, or are you out there for self-expression and creativity? And I think at that point, the four of us in the bands just wanted to have fun and do our thing, but had tremendous support from our fellow high schoolers at the time. We'd play venues that would allow kids to come in there and play, which is few and far between. There was one called The Wire in New Cumberland that we played at pretty often, and just to have a small group or a large group to come out and support a CD release party we had or something. It was awesome. We ended up playing like a graduation party. We played at the high school graduation, some pep rally stuff like that. So it was fun. But yeah, then move on to college, stayed busy. Was kind of dabbling in a bunch of different bands at that point. I was kind of a fill-in drummer here and there. Played in an 80s cover band. Did a acoustic duo kind of project. Just random band activities here and there throughout college. And
did you go to college for music, or?
I did not, actually. Yeah, I went to Lebanon Valley College, which is a big music school. But I went for pre-med there. My intent was always to be a dentist or a pharmacist. And I did that for like 2.5 years and ended up switching to business. And here today I find myself in medical sales. So I got the best of both worlds there in terms of the pre-med education and the business sales and marketing. Did not do anything music related at Lebanon Valley while I was there. And the reason being is, I always share I come from pretty humble beginnings, right? My dad was a city bus driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I was the first one in my family to go to college. And, I basically worked full-time at a dry cleaners throughout high school and college to help finance my own education. So when the school day ended in college, I drove and probably a half hour, worked at the dry cleaners and basically repeated the same thing day after day to be able to have some money in my pocket.
Here's a question I've always wanted to know. How do you dry clean?
It is a good question. Everybody says, how is it? What do they blow a fan on it? What does it dry? Right. There's chemicals. I believe I never actually did the cleaning. I was more, managing and front, cashier, whatever you want to call it. But there's it goes by perc. I think it's like perchloroethylene or something like that. That's like a chemical. So it's like a detergent and it ends up turning it into like a vapor or like a mist.
Oh.
So it actually like repels stains and ends up going through what looks like a giant washer or a dryer. And virtually like it's kind of like misted or vapored, but it is in fact dry. So it's weird. So it's more like gas cleaning, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Things you learn something new every day.
Right.
So what caused you to go towards the music route as opposed to the medical route?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still doing both.
Right.
During the daytime, I'm been in pharmaceutical sales, been in device sales, medical sales, hospital sales, all those kind of things, and I continue to do that to this day. But it's always one of those things where I consider myself a very creative person, and you need to have that creative outlet in your life, right? So
Absolutely.
when I go to work and I'm having a presentation in a hospital, talking to 40 people in a room, that's one thing. Then I need to come home and I need to play some music, right?
Right.
So I don't think I could do one without the other. Music has always been a constant in my life. So being in the different bands was one thing, but then kind of saying, there's something missing in this area and largely based on recognition and what could I do about that? I guess that kind of mixes both of my experiences, being from the business world and also being a musician, is that entrepreneurial spirit to say, what could we create in this area music wise that could be an overall benefit to the scene. And obviously, like you said, that led to finding, I guess, as the founder, I guess maybe that's the right word, the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame.
Before we get into that, though, I'm curious about your. You said one of your bands has been an opener for national acts.
Yes.
How does that happen? What were the people that you met?
Yeah, I mean, great stories associated with that. The two bands that I have been in that have done a lot of opening up for national acts is Mountain Road. Mountain Road's been out for over a decade now. I think they're about 12 years in. And then the current band I'm in is Cold Spring Union, and both have had significant opportunities to not only open for national acts, but also travel across the country, either to open for national acts or play in big cities. I'm really excited. In this upcoming March, we're getting to play and perform in Las Vegas, so that's going to be another awesome bucket list area to perform at. But yeah, I mean, how it comes about, I think it's kind of multiple angles, really. I think number one, any local band that's trying to get a solid national opener, number one has to be quality and talent based and skill based, right? Whenever the national acts, sometimes they're looking for the openers on a regional level or a local level. And then at other times, it's the venue, all right? So let's say a local venue books a national act, or there's a concert, or maybe it's sponsored by a radio station. So sometimes there's local connections where the radio station can say, hey, we need to pull in this local band to be an opener. They would fit really well on the bill. Or even the venue that says, well, we have a choice local band that we'd like to put on. So it's been a wide variety of those different experiences. In some cases, opening up for a national act at, say, Chameleon Club, right, when that used to be around in Lancaster here. That was usually the owner at the time, Chameleon Club, reaching out and saying, hey, you guys would be a good fit on this bill. But some of the larger opportunities have been, some of the larger festivals. I-105 sponsors Fall Fest every year. Mountain Road performed there probably 3 times. I got to open up for a lot of big country names. I mean, I think not only building up your quality by, practicing and continually to get out there and play gigs, but also being highly marketable, right? Like it really seems like right now, probably the past 10 years, I guess, is, people look at how much activity do you have online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Some people are getting discovered in that way. And, usually if you have, 5,000, 10,000 Facebook followers, they're like, in some cases, I think it might be also a business factor involved in there to say, well, hey, this band has a big following. Maybe we should put them on and maybe they'll help sell tickets, right? So really, been blessed with the opportunity to open up for a wide variety of big names. I'm hesitant to even go down the list because I'm trying to even think of who they were in the past. Marshall Tucker Band was a big one. A lot of country names. Thompson Square, Gary Allen. I don't know, a lot of things that played locally in Lancaster. But all in all, man, it's been a blast. And we went through that really awkward time during COVID where national acts weren't traveling, and it put a freeze on everybody to be able to open up for national touring acts because there were none, right? Mm-hmm. So you're doing a lot of headlining shows yourself or opening up for friends in the area. And it really seems like we're back into that now where there's those opportunities for local and regional bands to open up for national acts.
What do you think is one thing that you maybe have learned or gained since having opened up for these national acts?
Yeah, I think, it's really seize every opportunity you have, whether it's someone small that is a local or regional based talent. A lot of times local bands will take openers for additional exposure. And when we talk about the business of being in a band, most often a national act opener is an unpaid show. The ticket sales, the proceeds goes to the national act, right? Mm-hmm. Or it goes to the regional act. So you're really taking it to play at a venue to virtually add that to your resume. And, there are some, full-time musicians out there that music is their livelihood and they need to be compensated for gigs. But I would say, think of those opportunities as high exposure, high marketable opportunities to add national touring acts to your resume as means to charge more when you're playing by yourself, right?
Absolutely. Especially if it's a good point. Because there's this whole conversation of, oh, do I play for exposure or for money, right?
Right.
And that's a whole controversy and a half.
Sure.
But for national acts, listen, that's going to elevate. First off, that national act is going to bring in a number of people.
For sure.
First off.
Yep.
The people that you could bring in isn't going to compare.
Exactly.
And that's something you can say, hey, I know this person. I've played with this person. You're going to actually be able to meet that person more times than not. And even if it's a handshake or whatever, you get to say, hey, I got this picture with him. Here's me playing at their show. And then, like you said, that is a validation of your talent. You wouldn't be playing for that. You wouldn't be playing for that opening act,
Right.
had you not been talented enough to do it.
No doubt.
And that's another credibility to you to say, hey, venue, that's only paying me $100 a night.
Mm-hmm.
I played with this act. I deserve 150 or 200 or something.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, if, in a full band show, I think the same way as if you have an opportunity to play in a major city, both of my bands, the most recent bands, have played at the New York City Marathon, right? It's a unpaid gig for exposure, right? Why not do it, right?
Why not? And that's another name attaching it to. I played for the New York City Marathon.
Exactly.
Everybody, or just saying that, they get an idea of what that is, right?
That's right.
And that's a big event. It's another credibility adder. Keep adding these up. You could be able to charge more and more and more. And then these people are going to start realizing, and they might start actually paying you to open up for a gig.
Exactly. That's 100% right. And all of it really goes into building your fan base too. But, I think there's something to be said when something's popular, it attracts more popularity, right?
Yes.
And what I mean by that is if you have a band page out there and it has 50 likes and someone looks at the page and they go, oh my God, they only have 50 likes. Like, I don't want to be the one that likes this, right?
Yeah.
But if they have 10,000 likes and it's like, everybody's liking this, I should like it too, right?
And that a large part of that, like growing your following, get your friends involved.
For sure.
Because their mutuals are going to see that, oh, my friend likes this, I'll check it out. Or, oh, my close other friend, my dad, my mom, whatever, likes this. Maybe I should like it too. And that's the initial growth, right?
Right.
And then from there, you go out, play, shout out. Here's another thing that musicians forget. Shout out your socials.
100%, man.
100%. Do it more often than you think. Don't do it after every song, but do it more often than you think, because people are very forgetful, and you don't know who's listening at whatever time.
No doubt. One of the successful things that we tried as well was when you get the opportunity to open up for a national actor, you have kind of high exposure. There's a high crowd there, right? Get creative with that too. So Mountain Road opened it up at I-105 Fall Fest several times, and when we were there, we took advantage of that. We said, everybody in the crowd, get your phone out. Look up Mountain Road on Facebook right now, and if you like the page, we will randomly select a person at the end of the song to get a free T-shirt over at our merch booth, right?
Yeah.
Free T-shirt. That's it. Free T-shirt, right?
People are motivated for
hundreds of likes, if not thousands,
right?
Off that right there.
And you wouldn't be surprised. You would be surprised by how many people are motivated by it just as a single T-shirt.
Right.
A single free T-shirt.
Yep.
You're right. Get creative with that stuff. I've seen people have, they have their banners as well.
Yes, right.
have their things, their socials on the entire time.
Right.
But doing stuff outside of the box as well is gonna help you even more gain more diehard, true followers like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Facebook likes are kind of seen, I think, from venue bookers as gold standard of how much of a following you have, which isn't exactly super accurate. And I think that may be shifting the kind of popularity and following on TikTok a little bit. I'm really seeing that with musicians as well. And plus, I thought of another story. I mean, just opening up for national acting. You mentioned, the exposure that you get from the fans that are there to see them, but also the ability to talk to them backstage. In most cases, all of them have been approachable.
Yeah.
I can't actually think of a single one that wasn't But the best story I have is one of my bands opened up for Blue Oyster Cult, right? And the drummer was Al Bouchard.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Do you guys have a CD?" And we said, "Yes." He said, "Can I have one?" Sure. Cool. Awesome, right? I mean, you end up giving somebody a CD of high caliber, and the guy's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right?
Right.
This is the guy who has the staple of more cowbell, right?
Yeah.
Don't fear the reaper. This is the guy who plays the cowbell, right? So he's got some clout there. And, had we walked up to him and said, "Hey, here's our CD. Can you listen to this and let us know what you think?" You expect them to just throw it right in the garbage, right?
Right.
They don't have time for every local music act and to listen to it. But when we opened up for them, they were in their tour bus outside the backstage area the entire time. They didn't come in when we played, right? And then we talked to them backstage, and he goes, "Do you guys have a CD? Sorry we were busy. We weren't able to make it out and catch you guys. Do you have a CD?" "Yes, we do." Gave him the CD. Probably 2 to 3 weeks later, he said, "While I was out on the road, I listened to it," and he had a full album review prepared for us. And it wasn't just fluff. It was the good, the bad, the ugly of, this song, you should have done this or whatever. Super detailed. It's like the time that this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, established drummer put in to just provide feedback of a local band was astounding. And it's a story I'll never forget for sure.
And that's another key lesson to learn. Make sure you have something physical to hand people.
No doubt, man.
At all times. I can't tell you how many times people are like, "Oh, what's your business card?" Or, "Oh, what's this?" Blah, 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 blah. Or, "Where can I find your music?" And if you actually hand them something physical, there's something different about having something physical, like a CD, like a card, like even a flash drive. I've seen people give out.
Sure.
Right? It's something that's and some people will be like, "Oh, they lose it or break it," but it's something that they can see. Yeah, like just like that, just like a sticker. It's
See, Corey does it.
Yeah, it's something you can see, and every time you see it, you're gonna think, "Oh yeah, that's right, this, and that," and then you're going to play, as opposed to a Spotify playlist where people have thousands of songs and thousands of playlists. It's gonna get lost immediately. If I'm playing my liked playlist on shuffle, I'm not going to see a song I liked in 2016
right
for a long time.
That's right.
Having something physical is imperative, and like I said, if you open up for a bigger act and they want to have your CD, or even I might just recommend to say, "Hey, can you just give this to them when they leave?"
Right.
You don't have to make a big fanfare of it. You don't have to seem definitely don't seem desperate about it.
Right.
Just say, "Here, just give it to them," and let that be that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a fine line too. I mean, heck, I'm in sales. And I think some people, see sales as, being aggressive or trying to, force something at someone. And I think there definitely is a fine line in that, but I think if you're clear in your intent, that you're not like, "Hey, you need to listen to this," like no one's going to respond to that, right?
Of course.
If you're more of like, "Hey, if you have the time for this, I'd be happy to get some feedback from you," or anything, I'd really appreciate your efforts. Chances are they're probably not going to listen to your CD. Like this case was crazy. But if this is national act, sure, there hasn't ever been a time for me where, I felt like, "Oh my God, my band's going to get signed because we're opening up for a national act." Like the promoters aren't sitting backstage, like trying to sign people. Like that's not how it works.
No, it's not how it works.
So you're not going to like give somebody your business card and like make it, so to speak, especially when you're opening up for a national act. But you're right. Having something physical, whether it is, one of the national artists that might be your favorite, or more importantly, I think to give to fans or prospective fans. And that in itself is a form of sales, really, because you're trying to establish like consistent communication and brand recognition from the ground up. So like even this sticker right here, if I go home and I put this on my kegerator or on my guitar case or something, I'm going to see it more than today.
Right.
Which is the point, and then I'll be like, "Oh yeah, this story. I wonder how Corey's doing with that, Let me check it out and see what's new with him." So yeah, it's the same with musicians. Is do everything you can to get your name out there and continue to build it up. Have that like constant thirst, that constant drive for what is the next big thing the band's going to achieve. but don't be, you know, arrogant and pushy about it because nobody responds.
No, and to piggyback off of that, when I say hand out your CD, I literally just generally mean just give it to them. Don't expect anything in return. Like I said, it's
Right.
just give it to them. And the reason is, if you don't do that, there's no opportunity in the future.
Right.
Right? You never know what's going to happen. I say take your chance and wait for, plant your seed, wait for the flowers.
Yeah.
And if the flowers don't come, whatever.
But if you don't plant the seed, there's definitely not going to be any flowers.
There ain't going to be no flowers ever.
Right.
So, talking about planting seeds.
Yeah. We're getting into gardening now?
Musical gardening.
Okay.
So, you decided you saw a need in the central PA area,
Mm-hmm.
and you did something about it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it started. Just seeing how the scene operated. I think it was twofold, right? The only means of getting any kind of recognition in the area as a musician at the time that I saw was like a local magazine that possibly had
PA Music Magazine,
right?
Oh, yeah.
Or the Patriot News does their Simply the Best awards, right?
Mm.
There's one winner, there's one runner up, and there's over 1,000 local bands, right?
Yep.
They can't possibly have the scope over all music to determine who's worthy of recognition. And a lot of times it ended up being the same band every year that got it because it goes out of familiarity.
Right.
Some of those you think, all right, well, do they advertise in the magazine? Is that why they're getting acknowledged in there too? And it's like a, kind of back and forth game. Is the other thing is kind of like, everybody knows somebody in the local area. You see that game being played a lot with who gets shows, who doesn't get shows. And as a musician in the scene, like there was this overwhelming kind of sentiment that kind of just lingered of competitiveness and almost like anger amongst musicians. Is like, so and so got that gig. Why didn't we get that gig?
Right.
Right. And I don't think that does anybody good.
No, it does not.
So all those things considered, it was kind of like, how can we, the mission statement of the nonprofit of the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame is to recognize, support, and grow the local music scene. And I think that kind of steers towards each and every one of those things that we talked about there. And in a light of, supporting each other, I can't wait in the recent, future here when 1, 2, 3, 10 bands from this area get signed and everybody continues to support them. We're seeing waves and swells of bands having increased popularity, going on tour, getting national openers, releasing super quality content. I mean, in my opinion, there's probably at least 10 to 20 bands or recording artists in our area that should already be a national name. Like they are that good.
Right.
So really it was how can we kind of shed a light on this talent and make it bigger and better. And that resulted in the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, which at the sound of it is only a portion of it, right? So the
Right.
Hall of Fame itself recognizes the best of all time from our area. So we talked, the first year we inducted Poison and Dan Hartman and the Magnificent Men, some iconic names from our area. Recent past, we've also inducted Hailstorm and the Badleys and Jeffrey Gaines, big bands that have done things on a national scale.
Get Taylor Swift yet?
Not yet, yeah. So it's coming up soon. But yes, Taylor Swift's from the Wyomissing Reading area. We've actually had conversations with her people the first year and said, is this something you'd acknowledge? And they said, show us a few years of success, a pattern of success, and then she'll acknowledge it. She's not going to fix herself to something that might crash and burn in year one, right?
Of course.
And crash and burn, we did not. We sold out the venue for our ceremony, right? So I guess getting back to the delineation I always like to make is the Hall of Fame, best of the best of all time. Then we also do the Central Pennsylvania Music Awards, the CPMAs, which is like the local Grammys, which acknowledges the best of the best from our area in that current year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an annual award ceremony. And we mix those two things together where we give out awards for best rock band, best cover band, best solo artist, and then we will induct, someone of high caliber from the past in the Hall of Fame. Then we'll go back to the awards and we'll induct someone in the Hall of Fame. So the award ceremony and the induction ceremony has been wildly successful. We've done it 3 years now, and we're moving into our 4th year already.
So how did you guys? Because you guys started before the pandemic, and then
Right.
the pandemic slapped everybody in the face.
Yes.
And so, what did you guys do about it?
Yeah, it was interesting. Our first ceremony. So this nonprofit started in 2019. I almost said 2009. 2019. And our first ceremony was the last day in January, I believe. It was the end of January, either way, in 2020. So we were probably 3 weeks away from, panic
Right.
around that March 15th to the St. Patrick's Day timeframe of COVID really taking hold. So we had our ceremony. Heck, we probably were a super spreader event at that point in late January. But first ceremony in the books, sold out the Whitaker Center. We inducted some great acts there. It went off without a hitch. It was great. And when the pandemic hit, actually before that, when the ceremony ended, I remember having a big exhale on stage and thinking, all right, we got a year until we need to do another ceremony, right? Have some time. And then weeks later, the pandemic hit. Myself, fellow board member Mark Snyder out of the Hershey area called me up, and we were thinking the same thing. And we were like, what are we going to do here, right? This hurts the entire economy. It hurts every industry out there. But in our realm, local musicians make their livelihood off performing gigs.
It's done.
And when restaurants are closed, bars are closed, the means to have an income and to have a gig just canceled, right? So we started a live stream series online where we provided a virtual tip jar via PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, things of that nature. And it was extremely successful. I think we did, I want to say it was almost 200 episodes. I know we crossed the 100 episode plateau. In the thick of it, in the first, 6 to 9 months, we were virtually doing like a live stream every day. So when people are stuck in their houses, they could tune in to Facebook Live, similarly like these people are doing with the podcast here, and watch a musician perform really at their home. They can have original music sitting there. They could do covers. They could do whatever they wanted to do. And then the response that we saw from family, friends, fans out there contributing to the virtual tip jar was unreal. Out of all the live streams, we raised over $30,000 in tips, and 100% of it went all to the musicians themselves. So it was an awesome expression of support for our local music scene, and it was really wildly successful, and we were extremely happy to help the local music scene at that point.
So now that the pandemic has sort of passed, what have you guys been doing to help the music community? What is the future plans? Stuff like that.
Yeah, great question. I mean, it's almost cliche to say, but I really don't think there's a day that goes by without someone having an idea. Right? Yeah. What if we did this? What if we added this? And I'm extremely grateful to have, high quality individuals, not only on our board of directors, but also on our advisory committee. I think we're over 42 people that contribute from the board and the advisory committee. So it is not a one-man show. It is a massive team effort, similar to the overall growth of the music scene. It's a team effort amongst bands and producers and recording studios and venue owners and booking agents and sound guys and lighting guys, and you name it. Everybody's doing a collective job of really building up our scene. But when we take all those ideas and try to filter through them and say, all right, what can we do? What is the best way to support it? What is financially feasible?
What's feasible?
Yeah. We do the local Grammys, we do the inductions, and beyond that, we've moved into trying out some open mic nights. That's where I met you, Corey.
Yep, that's right. First ever one.
That's right. We're starting an original music showcase series, which virtually is just like any other gig out there. We work with a venue, we have a headliner, we have openers, but the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame as a nonprofit is supporting those and heavily promoting those specifically for people to come out for original music, right? So pretty much every band out there is always torn. Do I play covers? Do I play originals? What's
Right.
the mix? Should I do? People don't want to hear my stuff. Should I play 90% covers and then try to throw in an original? In this case, we're inviting the artists to come and showcase their originals. I'm sure they might mix in a cover or so here or there, but they're really, really encouraged to contribute with their original music. So that's another avenue that we're looking at. What's next? The Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame is and talks about starting a podcast as well. It'll be like a late night talk show kind of theme with interviewing musicians and having a performance on there. We've been talking about that for a while, so hopefully that's around the pike. The biggest news I have is we're extremely close to being able to be official to announce that we're going to have a physical location that people can visit.
Oh, that's cool.
As the Hall of Fame, you can go and see the plaques on the wall and all the the relics, the autograph memorabilia that we've had. So that is extremely huge news. I think this is probably the first time I'm announcing that to the public. So look forward to announcing that via our social media as well. And up next here in November, Bret Michaels is coming to the area, and I have the privilege to induct him on stage. So that's going to be pretty epic as well.
Cool. When is the next induction?
The next induction and the award ceremony, it will be the 4th annual Central Pennsylvania Music Awards and Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and it will be March 30th, 2023. So we've had different dates. It's been an annual ceremony. We're going into our 4th year here. But moving forward, the intent for us is to have the last Thursday in March be the annual ceremony, so we can kind of have a sense of uniformity. And we do Thursday. A lot of people say, well, Thursday, what the heck? And I got to go to work on Friday. Why isn't it on Friday? Or I want to travel in from 2 hours away. It should be on a Saturday.
It's about the musicians.
That's right, Corey. It's about the musicians, right? Fridays and Saturdays, musicians that's their livelihood. They're out playing gigs. We don't want to take away from a gig opportunity from either the venues or the musicians. So we felt Thursday, kind of an early start to the weekend, is the best day to do it. So Thursday evening, March 30th, 2023. And the board and the advisory committee are discussing the Hall of Fame ballot right now. So we're currently in the ballot mode, in voting to see who we're going to induct this year. And there's a lot of big names left on the ballot. If you check out cpmhof.com and click on the Hall of Fame link, you can see the ballot there. Year one, when we started, Corey, there was like 20 people on this list.
Right.
And it has grown exponentially. And they're all, we're not watering down the list. We're not just throwing random names on there, right? Like highly qualified, Grammy Award winners, people who have done amazing things, either born in our area, from our area, spent a significant amount of time in our area. I invite you to check out the link online because, when I started, I was like, yeah, there's a solid, 10 to 20 people that would this apply to. I mean, we've already inducted 19 and we have 65 on the ballot. It's probably going to be 70, 75, 80. That's 100 extremely worthy people of recognition and enshrinement in a local Hall of Fame. So definitely check it out.
It's always crazy when you ever get started in the music scene. You think, oh, I know this big person, that big person. And then you realize, oh,
right.
Everybody knows somebody who's a different person that's also really, really big.
That's right.
And you're right. Central PA especially has some of the most talented people that I've ever met.
Yeah.
And it's like we mentioned Taylor Swift, we mentioned the Badleys and people of that the caliber. But even in terms of like musical theater, we have like Sight and Sound here as well.
Yep.
We have 1,000,005 theaters around.
Yep.
And Broadway is only 3 hours away.
Right.
I've also found out that a lot of people from New York hang out in Lancaster whenever it's the off season.
Right.
Grammy Award winners galore, comparatively.
Right.
to be fair.
Sure.
And there's always one more person to add to your connection list, to your network.
100%. And even outside of the typical genres too. I mean, you mentioned, music theater. One of the names brought up recently to me was Jonathan Groff. I think he's from the Ephrata area, and he goes back to EPAC a lot. Musical theater. He's the guy who's the voice of Kristoff from Frozen, right?
What?
Yeah, he's in the Hollywood scene now. He was also in the new Matrix movie, so he's an actor. But his experience in musical theater is pretty rich, and heck, just to be Kristoff is cool enough, you know,
Right.
that he's, you know, up for consideration as well. So, but outside of that, you know, we get polka names, or you know, someone who plays accordion, or there's, you know, worldly music.
Shout out John Milosich, by the way.
There you
Accordion.
go. Yeah, I mean, you know, names come out of seemingly the sky,
Right.
and then when you do the research on them, you're like, wow,
How
this
did I
this
not-
person is legit. Yeah, how did I not know of them? And that's really, you know, one of the elements that we're trying to bring into the fold too. Is one of the things that I appreciate the most out of the award ceremony is, yes, the people sitting there in the audience are there to see if they win an award, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like an educational moment where they're there to hear their name called, or to see if their name gets called as a winner. But if they didn't do any research on who's getting inducted, you know, we read a bio, they come up, they tell a story, and it's like a history lesson on this area to say, wow, I didn't know, you know, there was a doo-wop group from the 50s
Right.
that made it big in the New York scene area, New York City area, or, you know, you name it. I mean, there's writers, producers, you know, songwriters, it's amazing. Check out the list, do some research, and you won't be disappointed.
And for those Philly musicians, is the award ceremony invite based, or can people just buy tickets to it?
So it's open to the public. The first 2 years we did the Whitaker Center, and I think their capacity is around 700 or 800, and it sold out very quickly, right? We did a pre-sale for the nominees to make sure that they got a first floor seat. We didn't do that. This past year we moved to the Hershey Theater, which is a 1,900 capacity venue, so almost triple the amount of the Whitaker Center. And we sold out the first floor, the mezzanine, and started working into the balcony last year.
Wow.
I think we sold over 1,200 or 1,300 tickets last year, so the turnout was fantastic. It really justified our move because we couldn't have fit 1,300 people in the Whitaker Center, which means if we were still at the Whitaker Center, we would have had 600 people that wanted to attend but weren't able to.
Right.
So this year we're poised to have a big marquee name there performing live. So hopefully that leads to more ticket sales as well. It's open to the public. We really invite any musicians, anybody involved in the local music scene, whether they're nominated or not, to come take part in the experience, because it's not just sit there and go up and get your awards. We have a red carpet experience beforehand that's open to everybody. Did you go to the award ceremony this past year?
I didn't know about you guys till recently.
All right. Well, I'm sure you'll be there this year.
I'll be there. I will absolutely going this year.
Yeah, it's something that we see is the acts and the artists who attend. If they come to one and they're nominated and they're not nominated the next year, which happens, you know, this I think we've had, I think this last year there was over 100 new nominees, right, that weren't nominated in previous years.
That's great.
So third ceremony, we had that kind of diversity to have 100, more than 100. I think it was 104 never before nominated acts. Insane. But so that also means 100 people who were nominated in the past weren't up for as a nominee, but we saw those people at the ceremony still dressed up. You know, we do the full red carpet with a photo backdrop. We did a live stream. People are coming in, you know, full regalia. Either that means, you know, best band attire, like the suicide puppets as a metal act, come in full face paint. You know, and then we have people, you know, kind of treating it like prom, where they're wearing tuxes and evening wear gowns. It really has the feel of our local Grammy ceremony, and it's an awesome evening to celebrate everybody.
And even if you're like a local musician, this opportunity is for you to network.
100%. Yes.
That is the prime time to be able to go up to some of these musicians that you have never heard of it before in your life, because chances are you've never heard of them ever before in your life, and go up to them, talk to them about their experiences, tell them, you know, share information, say, hey, where are you performing? I'm performing here, blah, 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 and make those connections, because in the music world, whether we like it or not, it is who you know that really makes or breaks you.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, people say that all the time. It's always who you know, and you can't know them without getting to know them. Right?
Exactly.
And you're 100% right. I see That's one of the things I'm most proud of is just the connections being made, because everybody in our local music scene is there. It's one of the funny stories is like one venue tried to find a band and they're like, we're striking out. We can't find a band. It's because everybody was at at that show. Right. But when everybody's there, you have some up and comers, you have, some veterans, you're able to pick the minds of people who've been doing it for decades. You run into sound people, you run into booking agents, you run into radio personalities. And all of these people are approachable. And it's not just, the pre-show, the red carpet experience, or during the show, out in the lobby, but there's always an after party too. And the amount of networking that happens there, hey, I love the album that you released, even if it's a friendly engagement. Hey, I love the album you released. My band, I don't know if you're familiar with them, it's called this and whatever. That kind of stuff is invaluable.
Yeah. And the saying is your network is your net worth, right?
Sure.
And it can't be more true in the music industry. The people the people you meet, and here's another thing. Don't go into an interaction trying to gain a connection, right?
Correct.
Just go up to them and as acquaintances, be like, hey, I loved your work tonight. I saw you got inducted. Where can I find your album, blah, 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 or can I buy your album, blah, blah, blah. Just try to make a severe connection. Or how long have you been playing guitar? How long have you started this band? How long have you done this, and that, and that? And the way to create the strong connections that are going to have your back, are going to become fans, are going to become your supporters, is by having that initial authentic connection. Because people know when you're trying to, get a hold of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the mentality has to be you focused, not I focused in any conversation. Because if I come up to you and say, Corey, tell me about your podcast, and I ask you engaging questions because I'm genuinely interested in what's going on in your life and in your world and your successes, you're going to do the same in return. Right? If I walk up to you and go, guess what? My band's doing this, that, and the other thing and whatever, I'm just talking about myself. That's not a conversation. Right?
No.
So, yeah, that's what I like to see in these kind of networking and connection things is someone goes up to someone, offers them a compliment, says, I've been following you guys. You're doing big things. I saw you went on tour. I saw you released an album this year. I love track number 5, whatever it is. Like I love these, those conversations and not to expect something to be reciprocated, but it will. It will.
Yeah. That's how you make real friends.
That's how to communicate. Right?
It's what it is. The art of communication is, I believe, it's being lost because we have all of these social medias that we could just text somebody and say, hey, blah, blah, blah. It's really hard for some people to go out in person and then to act like a normal human being. Right. Especially after we've been shut in for a year and a half or so.
Sure.
And haven't had that, whatever. Yeah. Especially for like introverts, because a lot of musicians or sound guys or stuff like that have never wanted to talk to anybody in their life before. Right.
Yep.
So learning how to communicate in a efficient, friendly, and authentic way is very important, because that in the music industry is what your talent is second. People will go to you just because you're a nice person.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I think the way you put it there, as far as even like, analyzing extrovert versus introvert, right? In a basic sense of, there are musicians out there, I'll relate it to a guy I was friends with in high school, like it was middle school dance. His personality is, I'm going to stand up against the wall with a drink and see if a girl comes over and asks me if I can dance with her, right?
Right.
Then there's the other personality, which is, I'm going to go ask the one I want and or a bunch until someone says yes, and be willing to take the no. Sometimes people don't reach out for fear of rejection, but sometimes they don't reach out because that's just not in their being. They're reserved, right? So there has to be a middle ground there, I think.
Absolutely.
I know musicians who are introverted and they want to express themselves and then
hide,
exactly. And that's tough to grow. Hide and grow is very tough.
No. Especially if you're one who wants to grow, you can't let life hit you. You have to take control of it's your band. You're the only person that's doing this for you. No one is gonna or it's very rare that someone else comes in and does all the things for you.
Right.
You have to take, and even then, to even get that person, you have to go out there and say, "Hey, I'm this person. I do that thing." As an introvert running a radio show, this is hard, man.
Sure.
um, Going out to the open mics, having no idea who anybody is, going up to walking up to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm this person. I really like your set." Blah 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 blah. Where I would much rather just be in a corner on my phone
Right.
and observing and then getting details that way.
100%.
But as a musician or as anybody within the creative business in general,
Mm-hmm.
go out to these events, go out to your open mic, go out to the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame Awards, go out to all of these events within your industry and meet people, talk to them, gain connections, gain friends, gain people that will be in your corner, and find people to be in their corner.
Right.
It's you wondering how we build a greater, stronger music community. That's exactly how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it all starts with communication. The most important thing, obviously, is talent. But there are far too many people in multiple industries in our world, not just music, that don't have the drive with the talent.
Right.
And maybe being an introvert doesn't necessarily mean you're not driven. You're just sitting back on your laurels, but it means, you don't want to or you're not comfortable with. So in that case, you need to embrace the uncomfortability.
Absolutely.
And always thinking, what is my next step? When you do something big, how do I eclipse this? When I release an album, how do I do better than this? When I have a gig, how do I get the next big thing? And I think if you go to bed thinking that, heck, as a parent, how can I parent better?
Right.
Or as a sports player, how can I improve myself? How can I constantly tweak? The same thing can be said for communication styles. How can I do better at listening? How can I do better at talking? Because all in all, man, like a lot of it booking shows comes down to communication styles.
Absolutely.
Are you comfortable sending an email? Are you comfortable walking into the venue? Are you comfortable with making a phone call?
Cold calling?
Right. And a lot of people aren't. A lot of people say, I'll send a blast email to a general email address, and when it goes into a trash receptacle digitally on the other end, oh, well, I tried.
well.
I mean, sometimes it might happen. But the success rate, if you do 200 emails and you get 3 back, or if you go into the venue and you get 5, or if you make phone calls and you get 10, or you hire a booking agent or a manager and you get 30.
Right.
Either way, you have to. I like your point. You have to put yourself out there. So even if it's I'm not comfortable, I'm not that person, you still need to find that person who's willing to manage your social media or manage your bookings and be that one with constant drive to go out and get things done.
And if you're wondering how to do that, YouTube, completely free. 1,000,005 videos on how to approach somebody, how to communicate, how to do all these. TikTok, it's literally everywhere. It's not as hard as you think it is. As an introvert, you create all these situations in your head. You overthink all this. It's not that bad.
Yep. And interesting point on the introvert extrovert stuff is someone told me recently. A lot of people think I am an extrovert because I'm comfortable talking to people. I put myself in this position of being the president and the founder. I'm the guy on stage talking about the Hall of Fame. I am far from an extrovert. And the best explanation that I like is you're not an introvert or an extrovert based on how comfortable you are talking to people. It's how you need to recharge your batteries.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, sounds like you and I are one and the same, is if I'm going to be on all day long and give presentations in hospitals to physicians or admins, or I'm going to be on stage and introducing the next band or whatever it is, or heck, on your podcast, hear the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to decompose
Yes.
after I'm on, which means I'm going to need to sit in a room staring at my phone for a half hour or something in quiet.
Right.
In order to recharge my batteries. Now, there's some people who say, oh my God, it's the weekend. I've been out talking to people at the office all week, and I need to run to the nearest bar and hang out with 10 of my friends. That's their recharging of the batteries in the extrovert manner. They need to get out and talk about things. I do that because I put myself in those situations,
Right.
but then I crawl back into a hole.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something to be said as introverts. I can talk to people I've never met before, and do that. But you're right. Always make time for yourself to recharge. I have 4 social activities I have to do today. I have this. I have the music review show that I'm going to be recording today.
Nice.
I've got my job. I teach children how to swim. You kind of have to be social to do that.
Right.
And then afterwards, I got another show with Andrew Pauls, another local guy. I know I'm spent after this day.
Yep. You better not go home and talk to anybody.
No, I told my roommate because he's a talker.
Right.
I told him today. Listen, as soon as I come home, don't say a word to me.
Right.
I'm not responsible for what comes out of my mouth at that point.
Right. And it's crazy that silence is almost therapeutic in that sense. And to bring it back to the whole music thing too, you know, I play drums and we'll play a 3-hour set or a 4-hour set. And I always think that is most therapeutic to me. It's not necessarily the silence, but it's the calmness of mind for me. I can't really think of another time where my mind is at peace, where I'm not, you know, in a constant thought of ideas and a swarm of thoughts going on throughout the day of, oh man, I need to get this done, I need to get that done. And when I'm drumming, I'm not thinking about anything, right? I could be moving my right hand, moving my left hand, moving my right foot, moving my left foot, and singing in the background, and it's as clear as my mind can be. It's awesome. It's like introvert peace, you know?
Speaking of drumming, we have some of your songs.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I think
We
so.
have Overflow. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Overflow was a track that was recorded with Mountain Road. I wrote that song while I think in the bio you mentioned I'm a songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I dabble in it a little bit here and there. This one, when we recorded it, Mountain Road was, you know, on the up and up of the country music scene, and this one was kind of written as, you know, maybe a bro country kind of song. You know, you got to throw in the random trucks and girls and beer kind of stuff. So it was kind of written in that fashion. But yeah, one of our successful songs off the Mountain Road album called Momentum, which is another track I wrote called Momentum, was the title track. But yeah, great band, Mountain Road. Final show of Mountain Road's coming up here at the end of the year. So that band's kind of winding down. But yeah, enjoy it.
This is Overflow by Mountain Road.
Sit back, kick back, with a drink from the bar. Get back, I want that. Baby, don't go far. 'Cause it's time for the party and waited all day. You came for love and you set the stage. Got the beer on tap and it's cold and light. Girls in boots and jeans.
those vocals, though.
Yeah, man. Big shout out, Mr. Kevin Cole, lead vocalist, James Clisham on bass, and John Rossi on guitar.
That's awesome. And we have one of your more newer songs, let's say.
Yeah, so John Rossi is the guitarist in Mountain Road, and he's also the guitarist and co-frontman in the band Cold Spring Union that I drum in as well. So Cody Wilt and John Rossi, every time we play, John will sing a song, and then Cody will sing a song. John will sing a song, Cody will sing a song, and it continues in that format for however long we play. So that's why we say co-frontman. But yeah, this. Are you playing that one now too?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So the other one is the other band that I'm in. It's called Cold Spring Union, and this track was written by John Rossi. It is called "Truth Be Told."
All the money in the world won't make you rich. I got an old Bronco I had since I was a kid, and I feel like the shit when I'm driving it. All the money in the world won't make you rich. You can surround yourself with friends and still feel alone. You gotta live with yourself when you're home alone. You're the only one who can satisfy your soul. You can surround yourself with friends and still feel alone. The truth be told, young or old, thoughts begin to blur. Too far gone, right and wrong. What you perceive to be true. They tell me to read the good book, kiss a whiskey goodbye. And if you wanna get to heaven, you gotta do what's right. You can do it for love, do it out of spite. Read the good book, kiss a whiskey goodbye. The truth be told, young or old, thoughts begin to blur. Too far gone from right and wrong. What you perceive to be true. The truth be told, young or old, thoughts begin to blur. Too far gone from right and wrong. What you perceive to be true.
Must say, those are really cool lines on the guitars there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool having co-frontman and co-lead guitar players. Shout out Cody Wilt and John Rossi. They love doing guitar harmonies and all that fun stuff. And shout out on the bass, Mr. Morgan Stambo.
So where can people find your bands, you and?
Yeah, everything's at Cold Spring Union, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. And website, coldspringunion.com.
There you go.
That is the band that's playing in Las Vegas here in March. This past year, they played in Austin, Texas. Played at a major festival down there called Old Settlers Music Festival. So also played on Music Row in Nashville. So fun and exciting stuff. And I think it bodes well for me to not only be the president and founder of this organization, kind of, trying to lead the charge of the local music scene, but also to be down in there in the trenches, in the nitty gritty of doing it just like everybody else.
For sure.
Yep.
So be sure to, if you want to check out those bands, to go out to those websites, check out their schedules there. I'm sure it's on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you want to follow us, we're going to end off our radio time, and we're going to keep going on Facebook Live. But be sure to like, subscribe, follow us to keep up with all of our updates and all of our past. We have a wealth of 86 or so more episodes in the past of
Awesome.
Great people to check out. And if you really want to help us out, like I said in the beginning, please be willing to do a review or send us a review all over Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. It really does help us grow, and it helps this podcast reach new people and helps us grow and strengthen the community here in Central PA. With all that said, we're going to get back to the radio, but we're going to continue live on Facebook.com. I always really enjoy it when the legal ID comes up. It makes it really superficial.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what is one of the best pieces of advice anyone has ever given you?
Wow. Advice. I guess I would go with kind of what we've been talking about is sometimes you need to get a no to get to a yes. And what I mean by that is be persistent towards your goals. And not only a no, on average, it might take 10 to 100 no's to get a yes.
Absolutely.
But no's are okay, right? Some people, can't respond to that and then crawl into a hole based on, getting a no from someone or giving up. But yeah, be persistent towards your goal.
And just another piggyback off that. Oftentimes when someone says no, in regards to music, it's a not yet, or you got to prove yourself a little bit,
Sure.
or you're not at that level yet. And so it's a no asterisk, right? Don't be afraid to reach out to them again when you have more accolades to your resume.
Yeah, and similar to, if you have a job interview, right, and someone says, no, we went with another candidate, I think the appropriate response is, could you share with me some constructive criticism as to why
Absolutely.
it's a no now? And then they give you the steps. And if they say, well, I need to see this, 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 and this, then be persistent towards that goal, accomplish this, 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 and this, and come back to them and say, I took your feedback, I did this, this, and this, so now are you ready for me?
Yeah, exactly. And here's another thing. Don't get upset about it. Don't start bashing them. Oh, they didn't let me do this because they're hoity-toity, whatever nonsense. That's not the point.
Right, right.
The point is to grow yourself, accept these criticisms, and that's another thing you should learn as a musician, accept criticisms.
Right.
And when I mean that, accept valid criticisms. There are unvalid criticisms
Sure.
as well. But learn how to take that and take it in stride. You're going to get way more no's than yeses, and that's just the nature of this career.
Right.
And you can't get upset about that. You can't let that drag you down. There's always a yes somewhere. You just got to find it.
Yeah, I love the accept the criticism thing too, because, even when we finish the award ceremony, our first thought is, what could we have done better?
Right.
How do we get better? Right. And if you apply that as a musician, I think musicians are insanely self-critical,
Absolutely.
Oh, I messed up here. I missed that line. And 99.9% of the audience has no idea.
Or doesn't care.
or doesn't care. But yeah, if you're conscious of where can I improve, because everyone can, right? If you think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread out there and you do everything perfectly,
No.
100% false.
Yeah.
So you can't have that mentality. You finish a gig, you finish an album, whatever it is, be accepting of constructive, valid criticism and help it make you, a better person, a better musician. And you'll thank the criticism afterwards.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. Remember that one.
I like it.
Speaking about criticisms and mistakes, what are some of the mistakes that you have seen or maybe you yourself have made in the music industry, and how can we curb that for the future generations?
I think one of the flaws, I guess, I see in this area is musicians doing what they do best for nothing or near nothing. And
Underselling.
Right, underselling themselves. And I've had venues say to me, I'm gonna pay $100 for a solo musician for 3 hours, right? And I say, come on now, these people need more than that, And they'll go, well, if they say no, someone will do it. So again, we talk about the music scene here. If everybody builds up their worth,
It's building up everybody.
It's building up everybody. And ultimately the goal there is also to build up the venue too, right? If they pay more, they're a business too, right? They're trying to bring people in the door. So, everybody can see both sides, but I think musicians who are willing to play at venues for near nothing and or nothing see value in yourself, because ultimately it builds up the scene.
And that's outside of the opening gigs that we talked about.
Right, exactly, yes.
If you're the main event, like you are playing the 3-hour gig at a bar,
right,
don't undercut yourself. Because first off, that bar is just going to be like, oh, they're a nobody anyway.
Right.
It's gonna make you less incentivized to market. It's gonna make them less incentivized to market.
Yep.
If they're paying you more, they want to get their money's worth. So they're gonna say, hey, by the way, this person's playing it this night. You guys should come out and support us. And because you're getting paid $100 an hour, say it, then you're gonna be more incentivized to bring other people out there. So that way, there's a justification for you to be paid $300 for your night.
That's right. Yeah, and everything we've talked about in this podcast too, as far as marketing yourself and being driven towards your own success and building up your resume too, that justifies more money. So if you continue to do that, it's almost like success breeds success.
Very much so. Better
resume, you should be able to get more money, whether or not you're bringing people in at all, because the venue also needs to do their part in marketing you and say, we have this person. They just played in Nashville last week. Like, you need to come out and see this. That should be their message to all their patrons too. So there are some venues that put it, 100% on the artist. Some artists put it 100% on the venue to bring people in the door. And it definitely has to be a happy medium.
It definitely does. Speaking about gigs, what is one of the funniest or worst things to ever happen to you?
Wow. One of the worst things was I passed out due to heat stroke on stage, and I had to crawl off stage and then go into the venue. That was pretty interesting. That was at Adams County Winery down in the Hanover area, I think it is.
Remember to drink your water.
Yes.
And to stop when you feel like you need to stop.
I mean, it was like 105 that day too, and
right.
Doing a cardio workout, playing drums on stage isn't exactly the safest thing.
No.
So yes, stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated. And it's another thing, as a musician, have your boundaries.
For sure.
Say, I won't play in under 32-degree weather, because venues will take advantage of that.
Yeah, well, one thing I learned from that gig is bring a fan. And I don't mean a person. I mean an actual fan.
Right.
Yeah. Plug it in, have the fan on you, because, a lot of times, a lot of the gigs are outdoors and it's summer festivals and it is 90 to 100 degrees and nobody's moving like the drummer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Forget the humidity.
Right.
And last question. What is one thing that you know now that you wish you had known when you first started?
Well, mine goes in multiple places, because it first started the Hall of Fame, first started as a musician, first started as a person. I don't know. It's a tough one, man.
It is a tough one. There's a lot of things you could tell yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. We've talked a lot about communication on this podcast outside of business and music here, and maybe that's a good way to end it too. Is be a better listener. Active listening is insanely important, not only with communicating with family and friends and and business relationships, if you're trying to get gigs booked or talking to anyone, kind of goes back to being you focused. If you are looking at someone while they are talking and you're thinking about what you are about to say, you're not listening to that person, which doesn't aid in good communication back and forth. So even as a musician, listen to your audiences, listen to your constructive criticisms, listen to everybody, take a beat, and then respond.
Yeah, I was about to say, to further that, as a musician, listen to your bandmates while they're playing.
Sure.
And people want to know, how do I get good at cues or whatever?
Yeah.
Listen, watch. Don't think about the next thing. If you're playing at a gig, you should be able to be on autopilot.
Definitely.
To be aware of certain other things. Pay attention to, and even record yourself. Listen back to your own stuff. Be an active listener to your own stuff. Don't just put it on and do something else.
Right.
Actively listen for things that you find incorrect, or you find better, or you find really good, and you want to keep that.
Yep.
This is one of the places. It takes a lot of time, but the people who are great have that on lock. They've done that. The people who are Grammy Award winners, have Broadway singers. They have an immense backlog of all of their singing, and they can point to the first recital they ever did and say, hey, look, this is what I did, and all of this is wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Right, and this is how I fixed it. This is what I did, all that other jazz. Active listening is one of the most, I'd argue, is the most important thing for a musician to do with their own music, for their own music's sake, and for their career and connection's sake.
Yeah, agreed. And I like your point in relating it back to music too, because when you think about listening to your bandmates, and even as an audience member of a band, you can see when a band is just super tight. They're locked in. They know whether it's a progressive rock song, they know exactly where they're going in the next measure, and none of them are off. Then there's that moment on stage where you see as a musician being in the audience where you can tell something changed in the song and they're kind of in improvised mode, right? And it just kind of has this overall feeling. The room feels a little bit different. Like, okay, they're looking at each other. They're giving each other cues, nonverbal cues. It's like, the guitar's coming in and, okay, let's get into the bridge now kind of thing.
Someone moves their foot. Someone moves their hand.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome to see that kind of communication on stage. And sometimes it happens subconsciously because you've been a band for so long, or you're just a veteran at your instrument, and you pick up on somebody doing a run on the bass and saying, okay, he's going to go into this now. Great stuff.
With all that said, please be sure to check out the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame at their website.
Yep, cpmhof.com.
And that's also their Instagram, Twitter. You can find them on Facebook, Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame. If you want to support us, the podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with all your friends, especially to those who need to know how to communicate. This has been a great episode about communication.
Love it. We weren't even planning on talking about it, but here we are talking about communication.
There it is. And if you want to be up to date with all of our future guests and events, check out our Facebook, facebook.com/thestory Rosen. I wish we had a website. We're getting on to that. It's coming relatively soon. Or you can check out our Instagram at _story_podcast. Be sure to tune in for some upcoming guests. We have Andrew Pauls at 9 o'clock tonight. We have Mike Bitts tomorrow. He's an amazing guitar player. We have Chris Keeney. He's a worship leader around here, and he's gonna be bringing in one of the oldest string instruments known to man, called the oud, because he knows how to play it, and I want to know how it's played.
Interesting. And how many strings does it have?
I think it's 5 or 4. No, well, let's say oldest medieval.
I guess I'll have to tune in to find out for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Friday we have a saxophone player from Right Coast Recording, Mr. Logan Kurtek. And then Friday we have Luther and Barbara Tyree. Barbara has a business where she takes old instruments and turns them into furniture, jewelry, stuff like that. So if you have stuff that's of significant memorabilia to you and you would like it turned into jewelry, check them out. With all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.